It's time to get super practical. Once you understand how to formulate the likely possible notes for any given key, you know, the 7 possible notes that we covered in the last chapter, we can take those 7 numbers down to just the most likely 4 chords. Anyone can memorize 4 chords, right? Honestly, most contemporary Western music only uses 4 chords in a given song. There are many exceptions to this, of course, but you may be surprised to find out how many times this is true. So how do you know which 4 chords will be the magic 4? It's actually quite simple, and we're going to look at it in depth in today's weekly worship thought. If you haven't already done so, make sure that you go to my website, www.jeffpolenmusic.com, and download the Becoming a Musical Ninja worksheet. We'll be using it for the next several chapters. Take time to work through the exercises in the worksheet. I believe the exercises in the worksheet will help you to better grasp this material and help you along the way to becoming a musical ninja yourself. Now, let's talk about those 4 chords, how to find them, and how to start hearing them in a given song. Remember, to find the notes in a given key, you use the simple formula root, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Once you know the key that you are in and the notes that make up that key, the next step is to simply ascribe numbers to each step of the formula. This is really simple, but to make sure that we are on the same page, it looks like this. Root 1, whole 2, whole 3, half 4, whole 5, whole 6, whole 7, and half, which is 8. Now, let's keep it practical by using an actual key. For example, let's use the key of G. So first, let's find out what notes make up the key of G. The root note would be G. A whole step from G, which is equivalent to 2 half steps, would be A. A whole step from A would be B. Following the formula, we would take a half step next. A half step from B is C. Then a whole step from C, which is D. A whole step from D, which is E. A whole step from E, which is F sharp, and finally, one last half step from F sharp, which brings us back to G. Now, let's apply the numbers to each step of the formula. The root is G, which is our 1. The A is our 2. The B is our 3. The C is our 4. The D is our 5. The E is our 6. The F sharp is our 7. And the second G is our 8. We have officially converted the key of G into numbers. Now we are getting somewhere. Although the formula we were using, root, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, is meant to help us find what notes are in a given key, it is also telling us what chords are in a given key. Well, kind of. We still have one thing to take into consideration, and here it is. There are typical major chord numbers and typical minor chord numbers. The 1, 4, and 5 are major chord numbers, while the 2, 3, and 6 are minor chord numbers. This means that in the key of G, for example, the typical chords that are used will be G, which is our 1 chord, A minor, which is our 2 chord, B minor, which is our 3 chord, C, which is our 4 chord, D, which is our 5 chord, E minor, which is our 6 chord, F sharp diminished, which is our 7 chord, and then G again, our 8 chord. Now you may have noticed that the 7 chord was neither major nor minor. It's actually diminished. No worries. The 7 chord is rarely ever used as a full chord. It is typically only used as a note that is added as the bass note to the 5 chord. But let's not get sidetracked on that just now. We want to keep this simple and usable. We now know the major and the minor chords for a given key, which is very helpful. But we still haven't discovered our magic 4 chords yet, right? You remember earlier when I told you we would get it down to just 4 chords? Well, those magic 4 chords that make up the vast majority of all contemporary Western songs are the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 6 chord. These are, without a doubt, the most popular chords in any song. If you were to memorize the 1, 4, 5, and 6 chord of every key, you could pretty much play every song on the radio. What's more, once you get this reality in your mind, you can actually begin to hear the chord changes in a given song and know just by hearing which chord is being played. Pretty cool. So let's listen to the magic 4 chords in the key of G, and let's see if you can start to actually hear the numbers. So first, let's go through each note in the G major scale. The root note would be G. A whole step from G, which is equivalent to 2 half steps or 2 frets, would be A. A whole step from A would be B. And following the formula, we would take a half step next. A half step from B is C. The whole step from C is going to get us to D. A whole step from D is going to get us to E. A whole step from E is going to get us to F sharp. And then a half step will land us back at G. Now let's turn that scale into chords, remembering that the 1, the 4, the 5 are major chords and that the 2, the 3, and the 6 are minor chords. So our 1 chord is G. Our 2 chord would be A minor. Our 3 chord would be B minor. Our 4 chord is C. Our 5 chord is going to be D. Our 6 chord is E minor. And then that wacky 7 chord, which is always diminished, this is actually an F sharp diminished. Pretty, huh? Surprising they don't use that more often. And then half step up again is going to get us to the G chord. And you could play that G chord up the octave if you wanted to. I don't have cutaway. All right, let's go through all these chords one more time, and I just want to talk through them and give you a little bit of idea what they all feel like. So this is every chord in the G major scale. And so we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, our funky 7, 8. All right, so there's every chord in the G major scale. And let's just listen to that real quick. The 1 chord, it just always feels like home. It feels right. It feels resolved, right? Let's lift up to the 4. The 4 chord is a lift, but there's a bit of a tension with it. It's not lifted as high as it could be, so let's go up one more step to the 5. There we go. The 5 chord lifts as far from home as you would ever want to stray, and then the 6 chord, though it actually lifts higher than the 5, it feels kind of lower and full of mystery and tension, and then we'll bring it back, we'll resolve it to the 1. There you go. You got a 1, 4, 5, 6 minor, and 1. Good. I like it. And you can do the same thing really in any key. So here's the key of A. You've got your 1, you got your 4, you've got your 5, you got your 6 minor, and then your 1. So 1, up to the 4, climb again to the 5, and then to the 6 minor, and we'll resolve it back to the 1. It works in every key. E, right? We got our E, A would be our 4, B would be our 5, and C sharp minor would be our 6. So 1, lift to the 4, lift to the 5, and up to the 6 minor, and resolve to the 1. All right, I hope this is helping you. I hope you can start to hear these chord changes. So do yourself a favor, try listening to songs on the radio and see if you can spot the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 6. And as a hint, it may help you to know that throughout time, the most popular chord progression has always been the 1, 5, 6, 4. What was one interesting truth or idea that stood out to you today? And how do you think that truth or idea will help you in the future? Was there anything confusing or too difficult to understand in this chapter? If so, what do you think you could do to learn more about it? Why do you think this information about chords within a key, which chords are major and which chords are minor, and how to ascribe numbers to each chord is important? Have you ever recognized that most songs only use 4 chords? If so, have you begun to recognize which 4 chords are primarily used in each key? Does this chapter help to dispel any of the mystery surrounding why certain chords are used in certain keys? In your own words, how do you think this concept fits into the big picture of learning the Nashville Numbers System?